everybody. It's Heather with the Leadership with Heart podcast. And today I am thrilled to have Shafik Mina on with me. Most of the time folks who come to me, I either pick them or someone's referred to me. And in this case, it was someone who came to me and it was an agency, I believe, or someone on your team that had said, oh, I think you would love to talk to them. It'd be great for your Leadership with Heart podcast. And I looked at the background. I thought, yes, so unique. Never had anybody on like you on the show in the 3.5 years we've been on. So I'm just excited to have you, Shafik.
Well, Heather, thank you. I'm humbled by your kind words. I had a chance to read a little bit about your podcast when it was brought to my attention, and I love what you do. So I'm really excited to be here, and thank you for having me.
Thank you. Well, hey, where are you right now in your leadership journey? Where are you at?
That's an awesome question. It's not an easy one. I think I'm at the part in my journey where I get the most satisfaction from seeing other people mature into leaders. There was a time in my life where my leadership journey was about success in projects and goals. And right now I find that what gives me the most joy is seeing people kind of come out of their bubble and mature and grow in whatever they're trying to achieve. So I think that's really where I am in my leadership journey right now.
I love that. I hear that often from those who are maybe more seasoned leaders who've been doing this at this for a while. And I'm the same way. It's like so cool to be able to see other people flourish and grow and find their own path and help others find their path. And you're just watching it from afar and seeing, maybe some of the impact you had. It's kind of cool. It's a little bit of a cool legacy to see, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it is. I think it is being seasoned. I think that's the word, right? In your life, you'll do a lot of projects, you'll do a lot of jobs. Some will succeed and others won't. And that's life, right? There's no perfection in life. But having an impact on somebody, having a positive impact on somebody, that's powerful. That stays for a long time.
I am curious to know, so those who you either lead now or have led in the past, what would they say about your leadership style anyway?
That's a great question. And I'd love to hear it when you ask them with not in the room. I think they'll say I'm a collaborative leader. I think they'll say that I give them the opportunity to learn even from their mistakes. So I try to listen more than I talk. And I think they'll say that I'm strategic in my approach.
That's good. Yeah, I think that's a good combination. I wish I could. I'm like all the things you described, except when you get to strategic, I'm like, I keep bringing people in who are more strategic than I am. That's what I do. I'm more tactical. And I'm a big visionary, but strategic is not something how I would really describe myself. So but thank you. So that's good. Now, I am curious, what the company that you have now and just like the work you've done as far as leading people, what is your drive to lead? Like, where does it come from? Where did it stem from, your drive to lead others, lead businesses, things like that?
I think it came from my upbringing. I think my parents gave me a lot of encouragement, and one of the phrases that they repeated to me is strive to be the best you can be. And it didn't matter what that was. It didn't matter that I come out first, or it was just strive to be the best you can be. And it's only a lot later in life that I kind of internalized these subliminal messages, or maybe not so subliminal, that your parents give you. And I realized that that's been the driving factor for me in everything I did. I don't. I just try to do whatever I'm doing at the time to the best of my abilities. And sometimes I have no ability in what I'm doing, but I bring it all the time. I think that's where it comes from. My parents.
There's so much we get from them, right? I always say, like, when I was younger, or like early on in marriage, I said, honey, our parents gave us luggage or baggage that's either good or bad. And we'll do the same thing for our kids. We have to decide which luggage or baggage we don't want to give them and not pass that on. Yes. Right.
It's fun. That comes up often. And then what I would add another nuance, Heather. There's the baggage you're giving them that you don't even know you're giving them. And that's the one that scares me the most. So that's the one I'm most diligent with, or try to be.
Oh, that's rich. Well, I want to know, because of course we see your cool background. For those who would go to YouTube and watch it, you'll see that there's this madscience.org and the cool background there. So I want to know a little bit more about your company. Like, what are you doing over there?
Sure. So the background and Mad Science is one of our brands, but it's really the one that kind of put us on the map and our biggest brand. We're our goal is to inspire kids, and Mad Science is about inspiring kids to get engaged with science. There's this perception that science is difficult and maybe challenging and maybe not as exciting, and that's just wrong. So what we try to do is break that down and expose kids to science in a way that gets them excited about it and engage with science. It doesn't mean they all have to pursue science degrees. That's not our goal. But just to recognize the power and the joy that science can bring, and how it's in everywhere around them, and everything they do, there's science. So having that recognition, I think, is very empowering and inspiring for kids. So that's how our company started many years ago. My founders started it as a part-time job because they liked playing with rockets and they couldn't afford to. So they started buying rockets and teaching other kids how to fly them. And then they realized, wait a minute, maybe we can turn that into a business. And 35 years later, here we are, the kind of the largest science enrichment concept in the world. So that's Mad Science. Very briefly, our other brand is Crayola Imagine Arts Academy. That was born in virtue of a partnership with Crayola, started in 2016. We worked on it for 3 years, and our goal was to do for the arts what we did for the sciences. Use arts because we think arts are very powerful. And I think it was sad for us to see when we did the research that a lot of schools were cutting down on the arts. I think they saw it as a kind of nice to have. Mm-hmm. We don't see it that way. Arts is a gateway to many very powerful things that we need as adults. So we decided to create an art program that uses art techniques to teach kids concepts that we think are going to be differentiators in the future: collaboration, culture, world awareness. Really, when I saw the program, I was jealous. I said, I wish I was a kid. I want to do these classes.
Yeah, you and me.
That's when I knew we were onto something.
You and me both. I love it. I'm curious to know the impact to this type of business during the pandemic. I mean, how much do you have to iterate and just change up how you were doing things? Was this mostly classroom based with most of these things, or did you have online components before?
Yeah, absolutely. I know the date, pre-April 1st, 2020, we were exclusively in person, hands-on in schools with kids. And then the pandemic hits, social isolation, school closures. So we had to pivot very quickly to online and adapt our programs. We went from, showing up to school and doing activities to having to create individual packages, send them to the kids' homes, and do the activities with them online. It was a rock and roll 2020. As I've worked more in the last year than I think I've done in the last 10. But it was awesome. I think I'm a silver lining kind of guy. So I look back and say, okay, we've learned so much and now we're stronger for it. So I'm grateful for that. But now we do our programs. We can do them online. We can do them in person. So the silver lining is we can reach kids now that previously we were never able to reach because maybe they were in remote areas or in places we didn't have franchisees. So I think that's the silver lining for me.
Do you have any, as I think about this, I have 4 children and at some point, all of them were here doing school remotely. And they were all going nuts, particularly the teenagers. It was just like, you could see like some of them were really becoming depressed. I am curious to know the role that all this plays in helping the kids. Do you see any differences in maybe in that idea, like some of them kind of being depressed, the isolation, how the arts, the scientists sending the packages, doing things, how that might have helped them?
Yeah, it was tough. Look, it was tough for us adults. So I can only imagine for the kids, and kids are a lot more social when they're young than adults. Adults, we learn to become kind of less social with time, at least some of us. But kids, it's all about interaction. And so it was tough for them. And I saw it in my own kids. I have 3 kids. I saw it in the kids that were in our programs. And you talk about what drives you and what motivates you. And I told you 2021 was hard, but I remember we got on one of our social media feeds a mom that left a kind of feedback and said, "Thank you so much for your class. This is the one thing my kids love to do and looks forward to, even though it's online." And you hear that, you're like, oh, man, there's more to what we do. It's leadership with heart, but we're a business with heart, right?
Mhm.
So there's more to what we do than how successful we're as a business. It's really impacting kids and impacting families, and that was, I think it helped a lot of kids and their families in the pandemic when they were isolated to be able to engage with people online, do hands-on activities, and still feel like there's some kind of normalcy in their life.
Mm. Yeah, that is business of the heart and leadership of the heart. I think it all connects. I mean, I think as we think, one of the things that I have a book called The Art of Caring Leadership, and one of the behaviors in there is this idea of whole person leadership. And so as we think about this, as we're talking, it is about the whole person. It's about all of them. And this would be like if we're looking at you as a leader, and then we think of your kids and your kids being isolated, and then this is a medium in which to kind of help them come out of their shell or help them feel like they're engaged in doing something productive, because all of us want to do meaningful things in our lives, right? And if we're just sitting there and just having no interaction, and it's so hard. So I can imagine it'd be a really good thing. So I am curious, is there ever a time you can think of, on your leadership journey, where maybe you just weren't the best version of you? Maybe you didn't show up as this person that's big-hearted, or that's others focused, or that could really was seeking to understand other people. What did that look like? If you can think of a story and then share that story with us, and then what did you do to come out of it to just become more enlightened as a leader?
Yeah, I think the story that comes to mind is when I didn't step up as a leader was we had a member on our team that was that just kind of didn't subscribe to the same cultural values that we all share, which is, this is a collaborative environment. We don't, everybody's got your back. We don't, it's okay to fail. It's a safe space to fail. And that person just didn't fit. And I was the leader, and my role as the leader was to step up and do something about it. And it took me longer than it should to do that. I'm still trying to figure out why, to be honest with you. Why did it take me longer? Because I knew it, right? But I didn't step up. But the lesson for me was after that, what got me to reflect on this, and why it's kind of stuck in my head, is as a leader, you have a responsibility to those you lead. And I had a responsibility to those I led to give them the best possible environment I could. And for a moment, I failed them because I knew that something wasn't contributing to that. I could have fixed it, and I could have fixed it fast, and I didn't. So that's that. I took a lot from that. And today I'm more in tune to, or I try to be more in tune to where the people that I lead are, and how am I contributing to making them better, and how am I not contributing to making them better, and how do I change that? So you learn from your mistakes, and that's a mistake that I will remember for a long time, and hope never to duplicate. It's the bad apple spoils the bunch, and you have a duty to the good apples to take the bad apple away, right? That's a shorter way of saying it.
It's so true. I have people, when I'm speaking to audiences, I have people say, well, caring leadership, like, but what happens if you have like someone who's not performing in this and that? I'm like, that's caring leadership is getting rid of the bad apple. Because you not only you help them on a path to where they can be more productive somewhere else, right? Because it's probably just not the right spot for them. So that you let them go into their like higher, better, higher good. But then all these people that remain behind, you show them that you respect them, that you care for them, that you value them when you address the poor performer, whether it means you move them on in the role, or you course correct, or you put them on a performance plan, whatever that is you're doing. It's showing care. People think like when I say care, it's very squishy. It's just all just like butterflies chirping, and it's not. You have to actually have the tough conversations to show you care.
Yes, care, and that was the conflict, right? Because on the one say, how can I be caring when might be letting that person go? But caring and leadership means sometimes tough decisions, and you have, as a leader, you have to make decisions for the benefit of your whole team. And so It's well said, and I thank you for raising that, because I've seen it in some of the people I mentor. This conflict that they have with caring, but not being afraid to make these tough decisions when they need to be made.
I've done that before. I always say, like, I've written multiple books on this. I speak on it all the time. I wish I could say I was perfect at it. It is one of the areas that here's what I found about me. If the thing that they did or failed to do was in direct conflict with values that I espouse, like strongly in my gut, then I have no problem course correcting. I have no problem helping them course correct, sitting down with them, those things, right? If it's either, or there's like two that are conflicting that are my values, then I find myself maybe not going as direct as I should to address the problem. But these are things I've, it's like you said, I'm more seasoned now. So I can see it in myself. I can see it happening now, where I'm having this conflict in my values and which one is going to win out. And then of course, who besides just me, what about other people's values? What about the external team to me? So just being very inward and interested, like really evaluating myself for what I'm doing. But again, none of us are perfect. This is a journey, right?
It is. We're humans, right? It's the beauty of humans that we're imperfect, I think, and it's something we should value rather than try to change.
I love that. Oh, I love that. Love that. Yes. We should like sit on that. That's like a meditation.
Yeah. Can you imagine if we were all the same and all perfect? It'd be terrible.
It'd be horrible. There'd be nothing
horrible.
Interesting about it. It'd just be nothing interesting. So yeah, thanks for bringing that up. All right. So now you get to turn the tables. Now all of a sudden you're the host of the Leadership with the Heart podcast. Ask me any question. What question would you like to ask Heather?
So
anything you like.
Yeah, well, look, I'm going to pick up on what we just got off, right? You've had some very wonderful speakers, and you're a speaker yourself. So you've talked to a lot of intelligent people. I'd love to hear from you something profound that you picked up in talking to some of the people you've interviewed, or something profound that you kind of just was a light bulb moment for you.
Well, let's see. The good thing, most everybody knows this, most of the profound things are right here in this book. But here's what I would say. There were two people that kind of brought this idea forward. Judith Scamone and Daniel McCollum both brought up in their discussions with me two totally different directions too, by the way, totally different industries, totally different people. It's this idea of breathing like personal mission, breathing a mission into your people. So often like either people lose motivation or they don't quite know their path, their direction. And that it's up to the leader to be, number one, digging deep to find out more about the people. So spending time with them, understanding who they are, and then helping to kind of build up a vision for them, showing them what's possible, helping them to create a personal mission, whether it's on your team or outside of your team. But being that person who really fuels the thing that is the thing that gets them up in the morning, whether it's in your organization or your team or not. Those were the things that were like that concept of help that we as leaders can and really should aim to create that for people, particularly those who seem missionless, visionless, or kind of are losing their way on a path. We help to illuminate what that path could be for them because we know what their strengths are and where there are areas that they can shine in. So yeah, that would be the one.
Very cool. So my to-do is to get that book of yours as fast as possible.
I think you'll enjoy it, given our conversations.
I actually look forward to reading it. I really do.
But what I love of that particular book, my first book didn't have like all the voices. This one has like 80 voices from the podcast in it. So I found a way to synthesize like the most important things and obviously bulk them together into these 9 behaviors. It was all those interviews of like, almost 200 leaders that put me there. But it's like, as I feel so blessed to have highlighted them because it's like it's their brilliance in their imperfection in a lot of cases. It's not in their perfection. Like I highlighted all of them because they're so perfect. There are some that are really good and I put them in there, but there are quite a bit of stories where it's like, and this person said they messed up. And this is what they did exactly. And so guess what? You don't go do that. No. And I messed up. Don't go do that.
One of the most profound mentoring meetings I had with somebody, talk about messing up, right? If you don't mind, I want to share this with you. It was the light bulb moment for me when that person was very what am I looking for? Was very cautious to never mess up. And they had pretty much, you know, gone through a career where they didn't have any big mess ups. And then one time they messed up completely, like badly. And I remember meeting with them to go over what had gone wrong. And I started the meeting and I said, listen, the mess up was big. And I took a pause and I said, but it happens to everybody. So how are we going to turn this around? What are we going to do so you can shine from this? And the person started crying. And I'll tell you, within a minute, I started crying too, because I'm just a big baby. And but it was the first time for them that they knew that they could mess up and it was okay, and they could turn that loss into a win. And that was the light bulb moment for me to make sure that my team had the knowledge that there's a safe environment for them. As long as they give it that's all I give it 100%. If you don't hit the mark, that's okay. Let's do it again. And what can I do to help you get there? So it was a turning point for me, all based in failure. So I don't see failure as a negative word, Heather.
Well, having science is like something that, you know, science is that way, right? Too. When you think about mad science, is the idea, and art, to be honest, right? There's so, which is why I have this called the art of caring leadership, because it is so, it's iterative. It is based on the eye of the beholder. It does require some practice, right? It's not, they say, well, this is not an exact science. Obviously there are things that are exact, but in many regards, right? There you have these different hypothesis, and you have to go prove things. And it's the same thing. We are our own evidence of our own leadership. And the people on the other end are the ones who are the users of our experience, the experience we deliver for them. And by the way, it's not lost on me that there's a light bulb to the, let's see, on the right side of your head in the background.
That's excellent. That was not.
It's like the light bulb, and I'm like, wait a second, there's a light bulb on the side. I love it.
Sit like this.
Exactly. But yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing to be thinking about, is like this. None of this is exact. It's like it might be exact for the person you're working with. You don't get it right. You keep like trying. You keep trying to get better. But it's just not exact. Leadership is just, it's iterative in nature. It's, I did well, I didn't do well. I'm a really good leader today. I'm not so great today. But it's recognizing it, right? It's really taking it in and saying, okay, I could be better. I always call it an examine. I examine at the end of the day. Well, did I leave people feeling in a particular way? Did I, as I review my interaction with whoever it is, not even just like a team member, anybody who's looking to me, anybody I'm interacting with, right? What did I leave them feeling like? Because it's incumbent upon me to review that and to edit that if it's not great.
Yeah. Leadership with, I mean, again, I'm not meaning to throw flowers, but they're deserved. I mean, I loved when I got to know I was going to do this, I loved what I read about you, because there are many types of leadership, right? There's kind of, you do as I say, and that's it, that's all. And sometimes you need that, right? If you're in the army at war, you need that decide. We're not debating what's right or wrong. There's a clear chain of command. So there are different types of leaderships that work in different situations, and even I would say in different times. So sometimes even the corporate world, there's times where you need that decide. But I think that what gets lost in the sauce, or sometimes is perceived that caring leadership is weak. And that is so wrong. It is so wrong. It is the furthest from the truth. And today, more and more studies are showing that people are driven by human connections. And if you look at it from, I'm going to put my corporate hat on, where it's about return on investment, and are my shareholders happy, and are we making profits? Well, if you can motivate and drive people, and that's your most important kind of measuring stick, then caring leadership is the best way to do that. So let's stop talking about caring leadership not being as good or less than other types of leadership. That should be
I totally agree. Thank you for that. I love that. Just the affirmation and the validation. I totally agree. I wrote it from the heart. I always say, I saw the differences it made in the interactions and my relationships with people, and what they were prepared to do for me as a leader and the organization as a result. And so I know that the proof was in the pudding for me, and I got to give it to more people. And I knew, for me on the other end, when I didn't get that kind of leadership, how I was left feeling depleted, non-motivated, which means I wasn't going to go fulfill my organization's goals. I wasn't going to help my leader get better or do anything as far as goals and initiatives, because I just didn't feel like I had any meaningful part in any of it. And so that's the reason why I continue to try to highlight it. And people are like, it's so funny. You know how you get those, if you're on Facebook at all, you know, you'll get the thing, it'll be here's a 3-year reminder. Here's a 4-year like reminder of something you posted. And I noticed that I'm not original.
You're
As I go back,
consistent.
like, yeah, I'm consistent. That's what I am. I'm consistent because I look back like that's the message I would say today. Like that's a timeless message. So that's what I think of myself as. It's a timeless, classic type of thing that'll be. I'll probably be saying very similar things 20 years from now because it never goes away. The need to make people feel heard, valued, respected is going to be there for eternity. And I think
it's
that's
real, it's quantifiable, it's measurable. We just came off of our toughest year, 2020. You know, again, we do business in schools, right? We do business with kids in person. We do birthday parties, camps. All these things went away in 2020. And so it was a very tough year for our business. And I don't believe that if we didn't have the culture we had, I would have all my people still working for me. I think what got us through as a group, as a staff, was the culture, the nature of the relationship we had built prior. So that's measurable, that's quantifiable. For those of your listeners who think of leadership as in numbers and bottom line, that is quantifiable.
It is, and I always tell people, like, I'm not Pollyanna here. I know I have to reach numbers. I have goals. I had it before, you know, like now I have my own organization, but thinking about like being in a large organization, I realize those things are important. Goals and initiatives and numbers and meeting a stakeholder, right? Those are all important, but you can't, it's not an either or, it's an and. And I think that's the key. It's not giving up on the and part of things so that we can reach, you know, highest levels. And I know that people say, well, there's been plenty of organizations that have had like jerks for leaders. And I know I can point to a few of them, just jerks, and they've done very well. But as you think about that legacy might be products they created, success in business, right? But was their legacy one of care? Do people say that person, those people, that organization left me in a state of feeling like I was more than I ever thought I could be? Left me in a state of feeling like what I contribute in this world, on this planet, was something that was memorable. And I think those are the things I'm getting to, because I'm not saying you can't get good numbers being a jerk. It's not what I'm saying.
Yes.
But I'm saying you can actually get great numbers not being one. And that's kind of that's it, right?
I'll speak for myself when I say I would hate to be the best businessman ever and be defined as a jerk. I'd rather just be a good businessman and not a jerk. That's just how I'm wired, I guess.
Yeah, I love that. Well, that's why you're here. Things are always meant to be, right? So I'm curious, for those who are listening right now, what might be a couple pearls of wisdom you would want to leave them with as you're thinking about their journeys to more enlightenment, not to perfection, and you know, more maybe motivation, just thinking about how to move forward with that. What would be a couple pearls of wisdom you might have?
So I think the very first one is, if you're going to be in a leadership, at least in a leadership role, lead by example. And if you lead by example, it's hard to be a jerk, right? Put yourself in that place. And if you're willing to do the job, then great. Then you can ask other people to. So lead by example. That's if you're in a leadership position. If you're not in a leadership position, this is I can't claim originality to this. This is advice that was given to me that has proved has helped me tremendously. And the advice was simple. I was starting a new job, and I asked somebody who was very successful that I know, and I said, what's your advice to me? Here I am moving into this company and I want to make my mark. And his answer was, treat the company like it was yours. He says, go to work every day and treat that company like it was yours. Don't make a decision that you wouldn't make for your own company. And I'm like, okay. And I decided to internalize that, and that got me from hired at the company and being the on a 1-year contract to being a part owner many years later. So it's that, because when you think of it as yours, you'll treat it with care and love and nurture, and that's and that allows you to get to leadership, because everything you've done there are going to be the tools you need to lead.
Yes.
So it kind of works together.
Yeah, it's so interesting. That's so true. I just think about the folks that I've worked with where we've got along smashingly. Like, they loved me, I loved them deeply. That was probably because I definitely have a high level of respect for people who have an owner mentality. As you say that, I realize that my patience for those who don't have an owner mentality is not as high. So, I still try to show up with care as much as I can, but I'm always pushing them to grow more into the owner mentality. Again, working for an organization, saying I own this space I'm in right now, and I'm going to go over and above and be service focused for in and out. I'm going to do all that. And as you say that, right in this moment, I realize that about myself, that it's those people who have the owner mentality are the ones that I just notice our bond, whether they report to me or not, our bond is so tight because they're just so focused on doing the absolute best in their sphere of influence, in the things they can control. And the other people are kind of like, and going, like, making excuses. And I have very little patience for that. I just, in this moment, I realize that I know I have to have more in that area.
But and then when you look at it from the top down, if you're a leader or somebody who's acting like that, and they're giving you their 100% every time, well, you're going to appreciate them. You're going to make sure that they're successful. So it works bottom up and top down. It's just it's a great value proposition to have.
Oh, this is so awesome. So for those who are listening, if you took away a lot, and if Shafik is making you ponder as much as he is for me, my wheels are turning, please do share this episode far and wide. Make sure that you share it on all the platforms, wherever you're at. And then don't forget to write the 5-star review on Amazon or Apple Podcast. I keep saying Amazon. Apple Podcast. If you go there, it helps to move us up the algorithm. We are moving up the charts on all the management leadership categories. And so this just helps when you share. So Shafik, this has been wonderful. I'm very glad I said yes.
Heather, thank you again for having me. It's lived up to what I thought it would be. I thought it would be an awesome conversation, and it turned out to be just that. So thank you very much.
Thank you too. This has been great. Thanks everybody too for listening to the Leadership with Heart podcast. Be well.